Are you looking for something different? Something that gives your place that little bit of wow? Well, here it is. Unique display shelves made with just a few trade secrets. Time for a little bit of old school joinery. I'm talking mitering and doweling. Now, if you're unfamiliar with those terms, don't worry, because you won't be for long. OK, I could put this shelving unit together using butt joints, but there are neater ways to do it. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm using miters. Now, in this case, that's where I cut 45-degree angles off two pieces of timber and join them together, creating a 90-degree corner. Just like that, no end grain showing. Tidy. I'm cutting a miter at each end of 6 pieces of timber. What I'm going to do is create 2 U shapes. I'm going to work one joint at a time and use glue to hold the pieces together. Now, I'm using a rub joint. That's where you put the glue on, push your pieces together and rub them. It expels all the air from the joint and the glue really sucks the pieces together. Then, I need to run some tape around the joint, using a square to make sure that everything's in the right shape, and pulling the tape tight is going to hold those pieces in place until the glue dries. It's quite a strong system. You're not just laying tape over the joint, you're actually pulling the joint together using the tape. You want to pull it as tight as you can without busting the tape or moving the joint. You want to be gentle with this, but you will be amazed at how strong these joints actually are, even with wet glue. I've got a piece of timber here that's cut to that internal dimension, just to make sure that everything is perfect. Look, 0.5 millimetre out, beautiful. Squeeze that out a bit, this is square, parallel, and now U, time for the other U. With that done, you want to get some glue on all 4 of these leftover miter faces and shepherd those 2 U's together. And you can just throw in that spacer block as an added security blanket, double check with a square. Now we can just finish up with the tape. Don't worry about wiping up your excess glue with a damp cloth, because if you wet the timber, the tape's not going to stick really well, and you're going to sand that glue off later anyway. I'm going to leave that to dry before I reinforce the corners using dowel. Now, you could buy a dowel from the hardware. It looks something like this. That's a little bit boring, really. If we're going to go old school, why not go the whole hog and make our own dowel? I've got some merbau here. It's a nice dark colour. I've ripped it down out of some decking. And that is going to contrast nicely against the colour of the timber. I'm also going to be able to make a feature of each of the joints. Of course, you may have noticed that these rips are square. How do you put a square peg into a round hole? Well, let me show you. Grab yourself an off-cut of 5 or 6 mil thick steel plate, then clamp that down to your bench. Drill a hole in it, 3 millimetres. That's acting as a pilot to make your bigger hole easier to drill. Then upgrade to a 10 mil bit. That's going to be the size of your dowel. And there it is. 1 round hole, 1 square peg. To get one into the other, you just force it. Clamp the steel plate down to the bench with the hole just hanging over the edge, then get your hammer and drive your timber in. The strength of the steel will basically peel back the square edges off the timber and leave you with a round dowel at the other end. Old school. Yeah. Once you're happy that the glue's dry, rip off all the tape, mark up for your drill holes, drill the holes, then add some glue and drive in the dowel. Using a fine-toothed saw to cut back the dowel, then giving everything a good sand and a coat of clear finish. Whoa, have a look at those dowels. They look beautiful. They show people exactly how you did it, but not how you did it. Now, just to finish off with a little bit more old school, furniture wax. I'm going to put it on using a bit of steel wool. That really just cuts into the grain, works the wax in, and then finish it off with a buff. Soft rag for a soft sheen. A nice, simple piece of furniture made well. That's a breath of fresh air. How good does that darker doweling look? The beauty of these shelves is that they can be mounted like this. What a result. Or flipped over like this on a corner wall. It'll make the shelving at your place the centre of attention.